الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. This is lesson number 6 from our commentary on the book of fasting from Bulugh al-Maram من أدلة الأحكام by الحافظ أبي الفضل أحمد بن علي بن حجر العسقلاني رحمه الله تبارك وتعالى. And today we're going to speak about the payments or the penalties or what has to do with something like that of some people who cannot fast or who broke their fasting or anything that has to do with these things. So, you know that sometimes there are some people who fast and they break their fast by intention. They just go and eat. Or they just go and intercourse their wives. And there are others that fast, but that they can't fast from the beginning because they are either so old or sick, or the woman is pregnant, or she's breastfeeding her child, or anything that is similar to that. People ask a lot about that. And there are other people think that it breaks their fast and they keep on asking about it, like dreaming a wet dream or waking and discovering that you discharged semen or whatever. So in this case, what should you do? So today the lesson is going to be about these things. The lesson today is going to be about these things. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال: رخص للشيخ الكبير أن يفطر ويطعم عن كل يوم مسكينا ولا قضاء عليه. رواه الدارقطني والحاكم وصححاه. So this hadith narrated Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما, permission was given for an old man to break his fast in Ramadan and feed a poor for every day, and no make-up or qada is required of him. Reported by Ad-Daraqutni and Al-Hakim, both of whom authenticized it. This hadith actually is not referred to the Prophet ﷺ. It's considered as hadithun mawquf because it goes back to Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas actually was one of the youngest Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. He is the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and he became Muslim with his mother when they were in Mecca before his father. And then when the Prophet ﷺ conquered Mecca and it became part of the Islamic State, he started always being with the Prophet ﷺ and benefiting from him. He was still young, about 13 years old, still not an adult. So his aunt, Maymuna bint al-Harith al-Hilaliya, was one of the Prophet ﷺ's wives. So he was a cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and on the same time the Prophet ﷺ was part of his in-law or his aunt's in-laws. So he used to visit her when the Prophet ﷺ used to go to her house. And the Prophet ﷺ prayed Allah for him to give him knowledge and understanding the Holy Book. That's why he is the most genius Sahabi that made commentary on the verses of the Quran, and most of the beginning commentators of the Quran were his students. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu here gives us a meaning of a verse. The verse is one of the first verses that were revealed about fasting. So the verse says, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ or masakin, two narrations. It says in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 184, and the ones that cannot or that can find it difficult for them to fast, they have to pay a payment for the needies or for the poor guys. So they have to pay a ransom, or it's not a penalty actually, because they didn't do something to deserve a penalty, but it's a ransom to be paid for needies. So the majority of scholars consider this verse as an abrogated verse because it speaks about people who cannot fast, or not, they can fast actually, but they find it a bit difficult. Ibn Abbas here in another narration, he says, okay, let me see here. There are several narrations of this hadith where Ad-Daraqutni here says that by Ibn Abbas, and the ones that find it difficult to fast, they have to pay a ransom for a needy. But if they fast, it'll be better. Now this is the verse actually. So he says he added another needy. زاد مسكينا آخر فهو خير له. That means instead of saying that if he fasts it's better, فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له, that means if he goes fasted it'll be better. He says no, if he goes and gives another poor guy, it'll be better. He says this verse is not abrogated, but the old man that cannot fast, this verse speaks about him. This is authentic to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. And there's another narration, in all of this is in Sunan al-Daraqutni. It says, this is only permissible for the old man that cannot fast, or the one that is sick, but he will never be cured. He will never get healed. That means he's sick eternally. You know, there are some people who are always sick, like diabetic people, like somebody who's so sick that he's going to die, you know. So what do we get from this hadith? Now, as this narration is authentic, and it has several narrations, what do we get from this hadith? There is a lot to say about this hadith. There's a lot to say, but scholars differ about this is, now, are people who are needy, who are sick, who are old, who cannot fast at all, and if they fast, they will suffer, or their disease or their illness will increase. Are they ordered to break their fast and pay these payments? And Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad say it is obligatory for them to pay these payments. What is this payments? This payment is your two hands, like this is called mud. Mud from qamh, which is wheat, or nisfu sar. A sar is 4 of this. That means 2 of this from all other things. It is said that a sar, it's 625 grams. 625 grams. And a sar, this is mud. Al mud is 625 grams. And the sar is 3,000 grams. 3 kilograms. 3 kilograms. But actually, this is not something. This is not something that is fixed. Why? Because the sa and mud aren't a type of weight. It's a measure. You measure with it. So a sa of wheat, it's not heavy as a sa of something else, like let me say dates or anything else that is heavy. So there isn't a compare between something that is heavy and something that is a type of weighting. Not weighting, actually. That is a type of measuring. But this is something to make it close. This is something to make it close. Anyway, it's 625 grams of wheat, or 1.5 kilogram of anything else. This is approximately. It's approximately. It's not something that is fixed. But the best thing is to weight it by your hands. 2 hands open and full it. That's 1 mud. Or they have it fixed. They have the measure, or the thing that you measure with it, called mud or sa or whatever. Now, the Hanafis and the Malikis say that this is not, they say that this is not something that is obligatory. This is not something that is obligatory. They say that if they want to, it's voluntarily, because they say that this is not narrated by the Prophet ﷺ. This is narrated by one of the companions as a commentary on the Quran. The question here now, this is for the old man or the sick people, and if somebody cannot do any type of thing, he is excused. If he doesn't have the ability to do it, he's excused. Now the question here is about the pregnant and the breastfeeding woman. These two, if they are not afraid about themselves, they are afraid about their child, are they forced? Is it obligatory for them to repeat the day and to pay these payments? For an Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad, yes, it is obligatory for them to do that. For an Imam Abu Hanifa and an Imam Malik and their followers and other scholars, they say no. They they are not obliged to do that, but they are obliged to repeat the day. And if they want to feed a poor guy or poor people for every day, they can do that. So it's something voluntarily, not obligatory. But actually, this is not exactly the Maliki opinion. The Malikis differentiate between the pregnant and the one that gives breastfeeding. So they say it's obligatory for the breastfeeding, but not obligatory for the pregnant woman. I'm not speaking about being afraid about themselves, being afraid about their children. But if they are afraid about themselves, so in this case, they are like any sick person. If they can repeat the day, they would repeat the day without paying any payments. Without paying any payments. Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah has his opinion, and he says that for him, Ibn Abbas gave this fatwa. Ibn Abbas gave this fatwa, and it is supported by a fatwa of Ibn Umar that the pregnant and the breastfeeding woman, if they are afraid about themselves or their children, their babies, so they are asked to break their fast, or they are allowed to break their fast and give a payment to the needies. It's not payments actually; it's feeding needies. I'm so sorry to say. So I don't say payments, because only the Hanafis agree that you are allowed to pay rather than feeding. Hanafis are the only scholars from the four madhahib that agree that you can pay the payments rather than giving food or what is fixed ransom in all payments of the zakats, in all the zakawats. So Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim say that these two Sahaba, Ibn Umar and Ibn Abbas, gave this fatwa, and we don't know any other Sahabi that was against their fatwa. But the majority of scholars say that yes, the majority of scholars say that anyone who is sick or cannot fast because he's so old, he is asked to give this ransom. And but the Malikis actually say it's not obligatory for him, because it is something that he couldn't do, so he is excused. So if he gives this payment to the needies, that's something that is good for him, but it's not obligatory for him. I think the Maliki opinion is more closer to the rules of Islam, because in Islam, anybody that cannot do something, he is excused. He's not asked to pay a payment or whatever. Wallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala a'lam. طيب. Now here, there's an important thing. Who are the ones that are allowed to break their fast but pay a ransom? Pay a ransom. Okay. Somebody who is the first category is for people who are asked to break their fast. They are allowed to break their fast, and they are asked to repeat the day. They are asked to repeat the day without paying any payments. Anyone who is sick, but he is going to get healed or cured. Anyone who breaks his fast to the woman that is in her periods or after giving birth, the pregnant and the breastfeeding women that are afraid about their health. So this is the first type that they are asked to repeat the day without paying any payments. The second category is they are allowed to break their fast and repeat the day and pay a payment. Who are these? These are the pregnant and the breastfeeding the breastfeeding women that are afraid about the health of the child, not their health. The health of the baby, not their health. The third category is that they don't have to repeat the day, and they are asked to break their fast because they can't fast to give a ransom for the needies. These are the old man, the old woman, and the ones that are sick and ill eternally. This is referred to the hadith that is in the two authentic books by Salam ibn Aqwa, says that when this verse was revealed, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, and on the ones that cannot fast, that can find it difficult to fast, they have to pay a ransom, or they are asked to pay a ransom for the needies. He says it was whoever cannot fast or finds it difficult to fast, he pays this ransom and breaks his fast until later on it was abrogated. The verse after it was abrogated. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم. So the verse after it says that Ramadan is the month that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in the Quran. So anyone who exists and the month has entered, he has to fast it. But Ibn Abbas doesn't see that the verse is abrogated, and he says that it was an excuse for the old and the man and woman if they can't fast, so they just eat and they break their fast and then they pay this ransom. And the pregnant woman and the breastfeeding woman, if they are afraid about their child, they just break their fast and pay this ransom. Give this ransom. Feed needies. So according to Ibn Abbas, the verse is not abrogated. No. But it's still on these guys. That's what they say. Wallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala alam. Now the fourth category is the ones that are not asked to pay a ransom nor to repeat the day. And if they fast, it's not accepted from them. The one that is not Muslim, the kafir, so he is blamed for not fasting. But if he fasts, it's not accepted from him, because he has to become Muslim and then fast. Before that, it's not accepted from him. Second thing, the child and the child, male and female, that are still not adults, and they can fast if they want, but it's not obligatory on them, and their parents have to train them from time to another to fast some days in Ramadan until they get used to fasting. Don't leave your children until they become close to becoming adults, 12 years old, 13 years old, and they don't fast anything at all. and all of a sudden when they get adult, you tell them you are obliged to fast. No, that's wrong. You have to always train your children. Train your children in fasting. Train your children in wearing hijab. Train your children in praying. Train your children in all Islamic things. The one who is innocent, crazy, mad, he's not asked to, he's not obliged to do anything actually. The pen is risen up on him. Nothing is recorded on him. And the same thing is for the old man and woman that have Alzheimer or whatever. So they are out of conscience. They don't differentiate between days or nights or people or whatever. These people are not asked to fast at all. Okay. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال جاء رجل إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال هلكت يا رسول الله. قال وما أهلكك؟ قال وقعت على امرأتي في رمضان. فقال هل تجد ما تعتق رقبة؟ قال لا. قال فهل تستطيع أن تصوم شهرين متتابعين؟ قال لا. قال فهل تجد ما تطعم 60 مسكينا؟ قال لا. ثم جلس فأتي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعرق فيه تمر فقال تصدق بهذا. فقال أعلى أفقر منا؟ فقال فما بين لابتيها أهل بيت أحوج إليه منا. وضحك النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى بدت أنيابه ثم قال اذهب فأطعموا أهلك. رواه السبعة واللفظ لمسلم. Okay, this hadith actually is in the two authentic books and in all other books. And it says that, narrated Ibn Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, O Messenger of Allah, I am ruined. What has ruined you? He replied, I had intercourse with my wife during Ramadan. He then asked him, can you get a slave to free? He said, no, I don't have any slaves. He asked him. He said, no. He asked, can you provide food for 60 poor people? He said, no. He then sat down. Meanwhile, an araq containing dates was brought to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he said later, can you fast 2 months? Then he can. Can you can you provide food for 60 poor guys? No. So he said, give this as sadaqah. The man said, am I to give it to one who is poorer than we are? It means that he is the poorest house in Medina. There is no family between the two mountains of Medina more in need of it than mine. The Prophet ﷺ thereupon laughed till his premolar teeth appeared. He then said, go and feed your family. Go and feed your family with it. Reported by As-Sab'a, and the wording is that of Muslim. As-Sab'a is 7 books, which is the 6 books plus Ahmad Muhammad. This hadith is happened to a Sahabi called Salamat ibn Sakhr al-Bayadi. He's from Al-Ansar, from Khazraj. And it has a lot of narrations. And actually, it has a lot of narrations, and we can benefit from it a lot. There's a lot to say about it. Even Ibn Hajar says that one of his shuyukh wrote 2 volumes commenting on this hadith. For us, we're not going to speak about it a lot because we're just going to take the main things that we need from this hadith. So this guy intercourse his wife in the morning of Ramadan. That means he broke his fast in the morning of Ramadan. And this means that intercoursing your wife in the day of Ramadan is one of, and by intention, is one of the major sins that somebody can commit in Ramadan. And it rules who does that. Because the Prophet ﷺ agreed that he ruined himself. And anyone who intercourses his wife, and when we say intercourse, it's not just hugging, it's not just kissing, it means putting the penis inside the vagina. That's what it means. Anything else, as long as you didn't discharge semen or the pre-semen, that doesn't nullify your fasting. But when you enter the penis inside the vagina, that breaks the fast and makes you deserve to pay this penalty. Is this penalty, which is a very strong penalty, first thing, is it classified like this? Free a slave. If you can't free a slave, fast 2 months. If you can't fast 2 months, then you are asked to feed 60 needies, or it's up to you to do one of these three things. The Malikis say it's up to you to do one of these three things. It's not something that you are obliged to follow. It's not classified like that. They say that because Imam Malik narrated in his Muwatta another narration of this hadith without giving these steps. Can you do this? No. Can you do this? No. Can you do this? No. He just says, can you do so and so and so? So he didn't, in the Muwatta's narration, he didn't give these steps. The second thing, okay, the majority of scholars say no, it goes like these steps. If you can't do this, you do this. If you can't free a slave, then you are asked to fast 2 months. You can't fast 2 months because you're sick, you're old, you're I don't know what. You have to pay this or feed these 60 people, 60 needies. What do you feed them? The same thing that we said in the payments before this. The same thing. It's either mud of wheat or sar, 2 muds of anything else. The other question is, is this penalty only for intercoursing, or it is for anybody who disrespects the fasting and he breaks his fasting by anything else? The Malikis and Hanafis say this. They say the reason of the penalty is that you didn't respect the month. You didn't respect the fasting day. So, therefore, if you didn't respect the day, you deserve to repeat the day and give this penalty. So you are asked to pay this penalty or to do this penalty. No matter you broke fasting by eating or by drinking or by intercoursing or by discharging semen by intention or by getting excited and continuing to get excited until you discharge semen. So you see how the Malikis, I think, are the most strict ones in these types of things. And maybe that's why the lands of the Malikis, like, well, it's not all the lands of the Malikis actually, it's only in Morocco that are very serious in fasting Ramadan. The people of Morocco can commit all kinds of sins and can break all types of respected orders, but if you tell one of them, do you fast Ramadan? He will look at you and tell you, do you see me as a kafir? Am I not a Muslim? But he can disrespect prayer. Maybe he doesn't pray. He doesn't give his charities, regular charities. He doesn't do a lot of things, but in fasting, he respects fasting. So, okay. So this has to do. Now, the question is, now this guy, the Prophet ﷺ didn't ask him about his wife. So, is the penalty only on the man and without speaking about his wife? Well, actually, scholars, the majority of scholars say no. It's something that is for the wife, for the two pairs. I mean, the wife and her husbands, both are asked to pay this. But if the wife was forced, he forced her to do this, and she didn't like to do that. She didn't want to do that at all. But he forced her to do that, so she is excused, but he has to pay the penalty. And she just follows him in his desires, so she is asked to pay the penalty. Why is she, where did you derive that from? Well, actually, it's because the Prophet ﷺ says that the men and the women, the females, are sisters of the males. إِنَّمَا النِّسَاءُ شَقَائِقُ الرِّجَالِ. Barakallahu feek, brother. So, when the male and the female are both brothers and sisters, that means that anything the male is ordered, the female is ordered, as long as there is no exception. As long as there is no exception about that. So here it's the same thing. And then somebody can ask, well, the Prophet ﷺ in the end told him just eat it by yourself. Does that mean if somebody's poor and he can't pay the payments, he is excused, that's it? Some scholars say that. Some scholars say that if the one is poor and needy and he doesn't have anything to pay, he is excused. Others say no. He is asked to pay it whenever he can do that. So now it's a type of something that he has to pay. As long as he is poor, so he is excused. But the time that he finds what to pay, he is asked to pay. That's an opinion of a lot of scholars. So the one that says it drops down by when you can't pay it in its time, it's Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. But the three other Imams and the other majority of scholars say no. It's something that you have to pay it whenever you can pay that. Why did the Prophet ﷺ tell that to the guy and he just laughed and gave him the food to eat? Maybe because it's something that is known, so he depended that. And the Sharia doesn't... Look, guys, the Sharia, the rules, the rulings are not derived only from one hadith. We derive it from all of the hadith. We derive it from all of the hadith. Okay, why did this guy eat from this and the Prophet ﷺ just told him, give it to your family and eat from it. Because it is said that when the penalty is paid from somebody else, not from your pocket, therefore you're allowed to eat from it. But if it's paid from your pocket, you're not allowed to eat from it. If somebody intercourses his wife without any intention, he forgot. We spoke about this before, and we said that the majority of scholars say that if somebody intercourses his wife forgetting, he didn't do it by intention. He just forgot that he's fasted and he intercourses his wife. So there is no penalty on him. And even they say he doesn't have to repeat the day. Okay, Malikis don't say that. We said that the rulings of the Malikis is that if anyone breaks his fast forgetfully, he has to repeat the day, but there's no penalty on him. So this is no matter he eats or drinks or intercourses. So he's not excused to repeat the day, but he is excused. That means there is no blame on him. There's no blame on him. Hanbalis say no. Hanbalis and Zahiris and others say no. If he intercourses his wife, even by forgetting, he is asked to repeat the day, and he is blamed and asked to feed or to pay this penalty. To pay this penalty, yes. But Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and his student Ibn Qayyim don't agree about that, and they say the opinion of the others that say there's no blame on him, no payments, no penalties, is the most accepted opinion about that. Okay? And they say that that is supported by several rulings in Islam, like that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَخِذْنَا إِن نَسِينَا أَخْطَأْنَا. Oh Allah, don't blame us if we forget or we make a mistake. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that رُفِعَ عَنْ أُمَّةِ الْخَطَأُ وَالنِّسْيَانُ وَمَسْتُكْرِهُ عَلَيْهِ, that my ummah is not blamed for anything, that for any mistake or forgetting or what they are forced to do. They are forced, not by their intention. So this is these are the main things that we can speak about here. طيب. One of the evidence that scholars refer to, that the wife has to, she is asked to pay the penalty as well, like the man. That one of the narrations says, "Halaktu wa ahlakt," I ruined myself and I ruined. That means my wife's self. So that means that he ruined himself and his wife's self, and that means both of them are blamed, especially if she agrees about what he did. She followed him. Okay, the last hadith here. Not the last hadith, no. وعن عائشة أم سلمة رضي الله عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصبح جنبا من جماع ثم يغتسل ويصوم. متفق عليه. وزاد مسلم في حديث أم سلمة ولا يقضي. Narrated Aisha and Salama, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's two wives, radiallahu anhuma, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to get up at dawn while in a state of janaba, sexual impurity. Then he would take a bath and fast, agreed upon. And Muslim added in the hadith of Salama, he would not make up the fast. He would not make up the fast. Well, this hadith actually is shows us, because many people can think that when they see a wet dream, they break their fasts, and it happens to a lot of people actually. Um, uh, Now, this hadith means that you are allowed to intercourse your wife in the night, and that even if it was close to the dawn, you are allowed to do that. Because look, the Prophet ﷺ, the dawn called, and the Fajr called, and he's still in the case of janaba, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't want to use the word impure, hasha sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the most purest person in the world. So I use the Islamic word janaba. You can understand that. So this means that he was so close to the Fajr. He was so close to the Fajr that he didn't have time to make his bath until the Fajr called. So this is in Ramadan and out of Ramadan as well. And the majority of scholars agree that this hadith speaks about Ramadan and out of Ramadan. And even they say that it's something that is agreed upon between all scholars, that you are allowed to intercourse your wife in Ramadan, or in the night of Ramadan, or in the night of any other day that you want to fast in. So the hadith is general. So if this is in intercoursing, that means you're allowed to eat until it's so close to the Fajr. There is no blame on you about that. And there are a lot of narrations that support that. But if the Fajr appears, you hear the adhan, you have to stop immediately, no matter you are eating or intercoursing or whatever. So that means if you just stop and you stop intercoursing, is that a type of intercoursing? How many say that? They say that intercoursing is by entering or getting out. But the majority of scholars don't say that. They say that's it. If you just stopped when you heard the adhan, you're not blamed because you stopped. It's like when you had some food in your mouth and you spit it, or you wanted to drink and then you spit it. So you did what you have to do. Therefore, there is no making the day again. You're not asked to make the day again. And there's no penalty on you. There's no penalty on you. The Hanbalis here are a bit strict. They say, no, if the adhan calls and you still intercourse, then you stop immediately, that means you are blamed and you have to repeat the day and you have to pay the penalty. Of course, the opinion of the majorities is more accepted than the opinion of the Hanbalis here. This hadith gives us that you are allowed to be in a statement of sexual impurity in the morning after the dawn, but you have to make your bow to pray. Now, what if somebody slept until the morning and he didn't pray? He didn't pray maybe because he didn't pay attention to the adhan, or he didn't pray by intention. Actually, he made a big sin because he didn't pray Fajr in time. He said, okay, I'm waking up in the morning, 8 o'clock, I have my work to go to the work. I'll just wake at once. I'm not going to wake in the night and then wake again another time. That disturbs me in my work. Of course, he pays attention to his work more than paying attention to his worship. He commit a sin. He did something that is bad, but his fasting is accepted. Okay? This hadith gives us the reason why the Prophet ﷺ, our beloved Prophet ﷺ, had a lot of wives, because they give us these details that no one can give us. Look how these details are given to us which actually, whatever we do, we can't know these details about the Prophet's private life, but these wives of the Prophet gave us these details, which sometimes some other people can get shy to speak about. If there's a sheikh, for example, a scholar or whatever, and somebody of his students comes and says, well, my sheikh used to intercourse his wife, and then we prepare water for him to make bath after the dawn of Ramadan and whatever, he can find it a bit shameful for him to speak about that. But the Prophet ﷺ didn't see that like that. He considers himself ﷺ as a model of his ummah, and they have to follow him, so he has to give them all of the details of his life. He doesn't get shame from what is permissible for him to do, and what is permissible for his ummah to do, and they have to learn that from him. If we don't know this ahadith, how are we going to know this? Now when we're speaking about waking up in Ramadan, in the case of janaba, that can be by intercoursing your wife or by seeing a wet dream. Okay? You can see a wet dream. For example, you can even sleep in the day, midday or whatever, and then wake up. All of a sudden you discover that you saw a wet dream and you discharged. Does that affect your fasting? No, it doesn't affect your fasting according to all of the scholars. It was an old fatwa of Abu Hurairah that it breaks your fast, but later on it was he discovered that was abrogated, and no one anymore says that. I think there is one madhab nowadays that says that. It's the Ibaldis. It's a type of Khawarij who are in Oman and in Algeria and some places in Libya and Tunisia. But they are the ones that rule in Oman. So they are there, and this is their opinion. This is not accepted, and the hadith was abrogated, and the acts of the Prophet ﷺ show us that it's abrogated. Yes. Okay. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من مات وعليه الصيام صام عنه وليه. متفق عليه. Narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, whoever dies while some fast is due from him, which is unfulfilled, his ear must fast on his behalf, agreed upon. His ear, that means the one that's... Okay, look. This hadith, actually, there's a strange thing about this hadith. There's a strange thing about this hadith, that the majority of scholars don't say what appears from this hadith. Why don't they say what appears from this hadith? Well, look, this is considered as debts. Debts. Anyone who has debts, his family have to pay his debts. You're not allowed to leave your relative debty, and he has payments to pay, and he died, and then he goes to God Almighty without paying his debts, and he gets blamed for that, and maybe even tortured for that, because he didn't pay his payments. So all of his debts, I mean financial debts. Now, Allah's debts are important as well. So if he has debts between him and his Lord, his family that are going to inherit him are asked to pay those debts. Okay. Differ about if somebody dies and he has days from Ramadan that he didn't fast. For example, she had her menstruation period and she never fasted that. She died. She was able to fast it, but she didn't fast that. He was sick and he had some few days that he ate in those days. So he died before fasting those days. She had an oath to fast so and so days, but she didn't fast those so and so days. So all of these are considered as debts on the seized person. The first opinion says that no one pays these debts at all, no matter it's an oath or days that he had to pay to fast and to repeat, but he didn't repeat them. And this is the opinion of the three Imams. It's an opinion of the three Imams: Shafi'is, Hanafis, Malikis. The second opinion says no. If it's an oath, they have to fast it. But if it's not an oath, they don't have to fast it. Why? Because he actually, as long as he was alive, he had the time to fast it whenever he wanted. So when he dies, he's not blamed because he didn't mean to leave fasting. He didn't mean to not fast those days. This is the opinion of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal and Layth ibn Sa'd, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, Abi Ubaid, Al-Qasim al-Sallam, and others. And Ibn al-Qayyim supported this opinion. He agrees about this opinion. The third opinion says that any oath that he had time to fulfill and he didn't fulfill it, and any fasting that he had to repeat and he had time to repeat it, but he didn't repeat it, so yes. So if he has an oath that he had time to fast it and to do it, and he didn't do it, he didn't fast those days, for example. So these are the days that his family or relatives have to fast them instead of him. But anything that is part of the regular fasting and he didn't fast it, they are not asked to do that. This is the opinion of a lot of muhaddithun and Ibn Hazm and a lot of Shafi'is, and even Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah says that if the hadith is authentic, this is what I say. And it's the opinion of Shaykh Hassan Al-Kettani rahimahullah in all of the debts that are on the seized person, the deceived person, no matter they are debts due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or due to human beings. No matter it is debts that he made it on himself, like an oath, or it is part of the Sharia. It's part of the regular fasting that he... I think the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is more stronger than all other opinions. Why? Because if these are debts and he had to fast them and he didn't fast them because he didn't pay attention to that, or he didn't he wasn't serious about that or whatever. So actually he's going to die with debts on him. So his family who inherit him, they have to support him when he needs them. So this is their opinion. And there's another hadith that supports that, where Ibn Abbas narrates that a man came to the Prophet ﷺ. There's another narration that a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ. And they said that, the man here says that my mom died and she had to fast 1 month. So can I fast that month instead of her? She died now. He says, yes, the debts of Allah are more, you have to be serious in paying them more than any other debts. Now the scholars that don't agree about this opinion, they say this is on the oaths. This is on the oaths. It's not on other fastings, because there is a hadith that says that Ibn Abbas says no one fasts a part of someone else. No one fasts instead of somebody else, and no one fasts لا يصل, and no one prays instead of somebody else. This is narrated by Aisha and by Ibn Abbas. They say that. So it's said, if Aisha says this, and she's the one who narrated this hadith, therefore she understood it in this way, and she's the most closest one to the Prophet ﷺ to understand that. So how can she say that? Unless she knows what she's saying. She knows what she's saying. So they say that this is obliged if it was an oath that you made on yourself, not if it was in other fastings that you had to fast and you didn't fast. Like if somebody didn't pray, are you going to go repeating all of his prayers that he didn't pray? You're not going to do that. So the fasting is the same. You're not going to go and fasting his fastings that he didn't fast. Wallahu alam, actually, it's a bit difficult to give a fixed opinion, because you see how everybody has his evidence. And the last thing is that, look, there's a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ when he was in Hajj, and she said that my father is so old and he can't perform his Hajj, so can I make Hajj instead of him? And so the Prophet ﷺ says, yes, you can make Hajj instead of him. Another woman came to the Prophet ﷺ. She said that my mother made an oath to perform Hajj, and she died. So should I make Hajj instead of her? He says, yes, make Hajj instead of her. And pay the payments of Allah, because Allah's payments are more asked to be paid than others. The same thing, Sa'd ibn Ubadah, the Prophet ﷺ asked him to pay a debt instead of his mother, that she made an oath to pay some payments, and she didn't do that. All of these narrations are in the Sahihain, the two authentic books. Therefore, we can say something. We can say something. And we can say that if these are an oaths, so you have to pay the oaths. But if it was regular fastings, it is good to fast, but to say you are obliged, we need a strong evidence to say that it's obliged. Wallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala a'lam. Walhamdulillah, sallallahu ala rasulullah, wa jazakumullahu khayra, and see you next week, bihawlillahi ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.